Good evening and thank you for joining me. Today is Thursday, December 18th, 2025, and we have quite a bit to talk about. So, we have a storm system impacting the northern Great Lakes region, especially northern Minnesota, south central Ontario, with quite a bit of snow. So, right now we're going to be looking at the temperature forecast at 850 millibars. Um, so some strong winds aloft, looking at about 50 knots. So some pretty gusty winds, but these are elevated. This area up here will get 3 feet of snow, 2 inches equivalent of liquid. So this was rain, it would be 2 inches, 3 feet of snow. Normally with a 10 to 1, it's about 20 inches of snow, but because the it's so cold in the DGZ or the dendritic growth zone at 10,000 feet or 700 millibars, and even colder at the surface, the potential is even higher because you're going to have very high humidity down to ground level or near ground level, meaning that you might get even more snow than what the model is showing, especially if there is still a moisture available down to around 1,000 or 2,000 feet above ground level. So that means potential is for 36 to 42 inches of snow in a narrow strip, especially right where the highest axis of moisture is. See right here, that highest axis of moisture looks like about 17, 11 inches. This morning it showed about 3 feet. So if you look at the this morning's run, yeah, look at that. That is a big bullseye of about 3 to 4 feet of snow, or 3.5 feet. Yeah, that's a big dumping of snow. However, things are gonna get. But however, here in the Northeast, in New York especially, it's gonna get very warm. It's gonna be in the upper 50s tomorrow. Maybe even some areas could breach 60 degrees. Let's look at 18Z. I mean, we might get some thunderstorms tomorrow morning. The showers should be coming into New York City in a couple of hours. I mean, it's already early morning, so we might get some heavy rain, maybe a little bit of snow on the backside, just a little bit. But it looks tomorrow looks pretty interesting for New York. We're gonna get a line of some gusty showers that should come through right around noon, so about 11, 12 p.m. Line of some gusty showers, maybe a rumble of thunder. Right here, there could be some thunderstorms here, some supercells. So there could be some water spouts. There have been some special weather, special marine warnings this morning, this afternoon off of Florida, and it does look like it's not just going to stop raining or stop precipitating, and then we're going to get very cold temps. And then look at this, another burst of convective precip later in the evening around 5 p.m. maybe. So right around sunset, there'll be some gusty snow showers. This is going to be snow because surface temperatures are going to be well in the 30s at this time. Even though we're going to be warming up near 60, around 22Z, so some very cold temps coming in. So this could be with some grapple maybe even. And then Saturday is going to be very chilly in the upper 20s to low 30s. And then some slow moderation into Sunday, but it does look like another blast of cold air is going to try to come in Sunday. See right here, you see that blast of cold air coming in? It's another system. This time kind of dry, but there might be some precip with it. Yeah, see, it's coming through kind of dry, but there will be a little bit of precip with it. Yeah, there's the warm. That's the warm front coming in, and there's your cold front right here. You can actually see where the wind shifts right around this area. You can almost draw that cold front right there. And then looking at your long range forecast, 0Z model is still loading, so it's too early to tell. Things will be wet and stormy for the west coast as the trough will be setting in, while on the east coast will be wet and stormy as well, on the opposite side of the ridge that will take shape in the middle part of the country. So things will be still kind of warm in the northeast, but not as warm as the Great Plains region. As we go forward in time, we'll be getting these showers, heavy showers. It'll be warm, bit of wet here in the northeast, and then the NAO will go negative, but instead of bringing in very cold temperatures, it's going to be more kind of a stable environment because the PNA, the Pacific North American pattern, will be negative, and your Arctic oscillation will be positive, but flipping negative. So then Arctic outbreak will come in. There's your negative NAO starting to take shape in early January. And there's going to be a bit of that Hawaiian pipeline coming in, of that subtropical jet feeding California with heavy rain because of that negative Pacific North American pattern. So looking at your precip forecast for the next 2 weeks, California is going to get socked with rain. Even Arizona is showing up to 4 inches of rain. This is good for their drought. There's a bit of a drought ongoing in the Four Corners region, so this should help a bit. And California is pretty good. It's most of the drought's gone. There's still some isolated pockets of drought in California along the west coast, but most of your drought is in the Four Corners region, and with that negative PDO, and with that negative PDO, it should bring more moisture down south towards the Four Corners region, especially with that subtropical jet from the eastern Pacific. And now I'll show you teleconnections to explain those terms I'm talking about. So here's your North Atlantic oscillation. Normally when you get those big East Coast snowstorms, blizzard of 96, blizzard of 78, the NAO has been historically negative. Same with the blizzard, the very snowy years of 75, 76, 2010, 2011 were historically La Nina winters like we are in right now, and the NAO was negative. However, other things that were a factor was the Arctic oscillation, which was also very negative. Right now we're positive. We're approaching positive 3. We're about positive 2.5. We've hit the peak, and now we should start descending according to the models. And some models have it going down to negative 4, but most of them, the mean is down towards negative 1. But there is a bit of a clustering down near negative 2, especially right around here. There's a bit of a clustering, so we might go down to negative 2 to 3. So it's possible, and if that happens, that could mean some cold weather for the upper Midwest. However, the PNA is trending negative. I mean, it's really negative. You do not want to see this if you want big snowstorms. You never want to see down below negative 1. You always want it neutral around 0 to positive 1. This is where you want it if you want big snowstorms. You want the NAO negative, you want the AO negative, and you want the PNA neutral to slightly positive. Or positive, at least plus 1, plus 1.5. You want it in this area, not here. This is very bad for snow. I mean, there's only one outlier trending neutral, but everything else is staying negative. Even this little hump here, this little bump here, it's still in the negative territory, and it slides back down. So, but a big factor of this is the Northern Pacific dipole anomaly. So we're looking at animations right now. So that dipole formed, but not in the way you want it. You want it the opposite way. You want it cold here, and you want warm here. And the reason it trended negative is because it kind of dissipated. If you notice, when that dipole formed, right around mid to late October and early November, let's look at the PNA at that time. And you see that little bit of warm sliver right hugging the coast of Alaska. When was this? Late October, early November, and look what happened. The PNA went positive. Dipole disappeared, and down went the PNA. Yep, there's a big reason for that. Because the PNA, the dipole, another factor besides the PNA is that dipole right here. Dipole went away, and the PNA just went completely negative. I mean, it's trying to reform. It is trying to reform, but you really want it warm here and colder further south. So you want It also depends where that dipole sets up. But yeah, if this occurred in January, February, we could have had a major snowstorms along the East Coast, especially with how you're getting all that warm water here. That's a good sign for a cold, snowy winter. I mean, La Nina does support that troughiness on the west coast and ridging on the east. So the reason 95, 96, and 2010, 2011 was so stormy, why you got so much snowstorms on the east coast, was in part because of the North Atlantic Oscillation. You had a major blocking from the NAO, and also from a lot of the Arctic Oscillation was negative because of Siberian snow cover. So we're gonna head to 2010. We're gonna look at December. We're gonna look at about December 18th, so where we are right now, December 16th, 2010. There was a bit of a dipole. Look at that. You had that warm here. Look at that. Warm water here, cold here. You got that warm here. And this was during a La Nina. Even though it did look like you were having a cold PDO, which would normally favor warm weather along the East Coast, look at that dipole. Warm, cold, warm, cold. Very warm, so a lot of blocking. And also you had the Siberian snow cover being above average in October. That kind of helped with the AO being negative for most of the winter. So let's look at we're going to look at the NAO. Let's look at the daily PNA index since January 1950. So we're going to look at this right here. Turn directory. So we're going to look at the NAO. No, let's look at the PNA. Okay. There we go. This is what I want to look at. So let's go down to 2010. Let's go down to about December. When we had those snowstorms, September 27th, it was negative, but keep in mind, December 18th. And this is the PNA. Okay. So it was around -2, and then it trended positive. So, but it definitely does not look like that right now. Let's see what happened. Let's look at SST anomalies around December 27th. Kind of dissipated. So it did show negative and then trending positive, and then you can also look at the NAO. Let's go from 1950 to current. No. No. Okay, let's go down again to 2010. All right, let's go down to 2010. We're going to look at December 27th. So again, look, the NAO was negative when that big snowstorm happened. Your NAO was about -0.8. So we are getting similar signals as what happened in December 2010, 2011. Because on December 27, 2010, it was -0.868. And then it trended kind of neutral to negative. And then, yeah, look at that. It was actually positive for a bit. Wow. And now we're going to look at the Arctic Oscillation. So we're going to go down to, all right, we're going to go down to 2010. And we're going to look at, again, December 2010. So we're on the same time where we are right now, December 18th. So, wow, that is crazy. It went down to -5. So it went from slightly negative. It never was positive. It was negative the whole time, and it just crashed negative almost 6. It literally went down to like here. It really crashed like hard. And I'm just not seeing that right now. And on the day of the snowstorm, it was -2.5, and it stayed negative for most of the winter. So, I mean, is this going to happen again? Are we going to get a Christmas miracle snowstorm? I mean, it's looking pretty unlikely now. I mean, at least a snowstorm in January, maybe February. I mean, you never know, but it's looking pretty unlikely now. So, anyway, thank you all for watching and have a great night.